Hey, thanks for joining us. I'm Jason, and this is Pastor Dave, and I got questions, and he's got answers. Hey, Dave, tonight I got a question that's coming from somebody who watched one of our previous videos, and the question is this. What does the Bible say about Christians defending themselves against terrorists versus we are supposed to turn the other cheek and love people despite the sin that they commit? And I guess the big question is it okay for a Christian to defend themselves, even physically? This says pack some heat and handle the active shooter situation. But what should a Christian do in a situation like that where they're called to potentially physically defend themselves against someone who's trying to harm them?
Right. And the Bible is, in a way, he describes for us the absolutes, and there's no fudging on those. You're not supposed to, steal, kill, and talks about adultery, the thou shalt not. But then there's these gray areas in the scriptures where the scriptures don't get real clear on how the Christian is to live his life, what is in the period of time in which we live in, how can we apply the principles of New Testament scripture that really doesn't address certain issues or doesn't address it clearly. It does talk about the leadership and praying for them, and it does talk about it in the days that Paul had wrote that, or that it was written, that we should pray for those that are in leadership over us, and all that was in days like Nero. So oppressive governments have always been the story throughout history, and so prayer is where we begin. And so I don't know where to go beyond from that point on. We get into that area, it's called the gray areas of Scripture, where it doesn't tell us black, white, and clear as a bell how to deal with certain issues, and also it comes down to the consciousness, I believe, of the believer between them and the Lord and what He's telling them to do. I wouldn't dare try to tell somebody the Lord isn't telling you that unless it was clear from the Scriptures. Now, the Bible does talk about some interesting things where David, in Psalm 144, he even indicated that the Lord gave him the ability to fight and to war, and he attributed it to God. And so I don't dismiss that either. And I wonder sometimes about fellows in military, gals and all, that are facing that kind of a question. How can they justify this when the Lord talks about turning the other cheek and thou shalt not kill and those kinds of things that really we want to adhere to and hold on to? The idea though is that the Lord does place us at times in history where, like a King David, where David recognized it was the Lord who gave him the ability to do what he was doing, and he was a man of war. And so there is a place to defend ourselves, and there is a place that is something that God had given us to defend ourselves. I don't think that it's as clear of a line that we'd like to make it and as clean as we'd like to make it. But I do know the love of God is in Romans chapter 12. The first thing he describes in his definition in Romans 12 of the love of God is he says it abhors evil. And so it's totally not what we would put in the equation of thou shalt not, or the idea of loving and all. We would always have it in this kind of a milquetoast kind of a thing that we get along with everybody and everybody's at peace with. I don't think that's the definition of the love of God. If, as I've heard it said, if you have a dog that's foaming at the mouth, coming on over the hillside and coming out of the woods with our children out here playing on the swing set and all, believe me, in the love of God, I'll knock his brains out. And so there's a place where in defending yourself, it's really under the idea that they're dying anyway. They're foaming at the mouth. They're given over to something that's evil, and there's a place that you're just simply obliging them and trying to protect yourself and the loved ones around you. So it's not an easy answer, but I do believe that you can ask the Lord in that place of between you and the Lord and come to a conclusion in and of yourself. But I do believe the scriptures do indicate there's a place to defend yourself.
I think Dave summed it up. It's not always an easy answer, and time in the Word and time in prayer sometimes is where you'll find those answers. So, for a question like this on defending yourself, you may find that it's even situational, and on how and if you defend. So, as always, the encouragement is to spend time in prayer, seek God in these types of questions, and hopefully an answer like Dave gave will help you find those answers that you seek out. Hey, thanks for joining us.